Hello,
I'm Julian.
I'm regular old Tom.
No longer a gumshoe or a sleuth, just former podcast of television shows guest host Tom is here
Yes.
with me. It's been a little while. We would like to welcome everyone back if you are joining us. If this is your first time, congratulations. It's going to be a doozy. Tom and I have been debating which show to enter into next in the podcast conversation. Obviously, we've been really torn up about the writer's strike that we feel strongly about. Both Tom and I are on the side of the big corporations. That would make sense to anyone that's listened to us. So,
AI, baby.
AI, yes, we love AI. In fact, one day my hope is that AI just does this job for me so I don't have to. So, in the spirit of those strikes, Tom and I also went on strike. But truly, we just had no idea what to do, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot coming out that's of note based on Tom and I's opinion.
Well, we did spend about 3 hours around a campfire recently trying to figure out what our next show would be. Got nowhere.
We got nowhere. In the end, we decided to just do a podcast about tasting alcohols. So for the next 4 hours, we will taste an alcohol. We're allowed to give a 3-word descriptor, and then we'll move on to the next alcohol. So you're welcome. No, that was one that was thrown in the fire, and we didn't move on. But what did cause some conversations is a discussion of the shows that we wish we could have talked about back in the day, the shows that we really love. And so what we're going to do today is an exercise called Desert Island, and it's focused on TV shows. And so, Tom, when you do Desert Island, what does that mean to you? And hopefully your definition is the same as mine, because otherwise this is going to go haywire real quick.
Well, first off, I have questions about the game itself of Desert Island. Why is
Okay.
it called Desert Island? Are these islands that have cacti on them, or are we deserted on this island with nobody there? Because I
Great
would argue there's a
question.
lot of desert islands that have people on them.
Great question, Tom. It has to do with annual rainfall. So the islands we're going to be on have a amount of annual rainfall that denotes them as a desert. So hopefully that answers that first difficult question. As the guy that loves science, I'm glad that was directed at me. And
No, but I feel so. I think the premise we got from Office, and the Office calls it Desert Island, like Desert Island movies or books, or I can't remember what they did specifically on that show. A lot of funny, good comedy there. But I feel like the most important bit is not just this is my favorite show from the past couple of years. No, this needs to be a show that you want to watch over and over and over again. It's not going to drive you crazy. So I felt like, knowing that, I tried to pick shows that had longer seasons and runs, so that way I'm
Okay.
getting more bang for my buck. I felt like that was important. And I also kind of picked shows, I think generally that might be a little bit kind of coming of age for me, as I was growing up, shows that kind of spoke to me, that I feel like have the nostalgia and that I'll be able
Sure.
to go back and still enjoy over and over again. So those were
The
kind of
Bold
my...
and the Beautiful. I'm
course.
assuming The Bold and the Beautiful is going to be one of your desert
Yeah,
islands.
Young and Reckless. Yeah, all those. Or no,
Yes.
not Young and Reckless.
No, Young and Reckless. Young and Reckless.
That was a spin-off.
It was a great soap opera. Well, here's my definition is
Yeah.
you're stuck on a desert island, you only get these shows to watch, and so, once again, not the flavor of the month, but what do you feel like over 20 years as you're, I don't know, making love to a volleyball and eating coconuts? What do you want to watch where you apparently have a generator that continues to run a television and a DVD or Blu-ray player or a streaming service? You have internet. Why wouldn't you call for help? Anyways, let's not dive into the particulars, but you're stuck on a desert island. I'll go through the categories. The one thing I do want to mention, Tom, is you brought up this being introduced to you from The Office. I'm going to point out that I spent enough time sitting bored in weird places that this was just a game we played, and it was fun that The Office did it. So this is a game I've been playing since childhood, so I know all the ins and outs and strategy. So
okay,
my
yeah, leg up on
island,
me.
my island is going to defeat your island. Is I guess what
Ooh,
I'm saying.
okay.
But Tom,
I guess
give
we
it-
should also say that at the very end, right? I'm gonna create my island based on my picks. You're gonna create yours, and at the end, we're gonna have a listener vote. I'd be interested to see whose island people would go to.
Yes. How many of the 10 people vote for your island, and how many of the 10 people vote for mine? But Tom, if you would please give us the categories that you and I, once again, drunk over a fire pit, decided on.
Yeah, so I think we gotta go comedy.
Yep.
So that's where we'll start. We'll move on to drama. Then we did variety and game show, but didn't really give each other much specifics. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be all over the place. I'm excited for that category.
Sure.
We'll do cartoon, and then we're going to finish with shows we've actually never seen. Haven't seen any minute of it. We know it exists. We know it's in the zeitgeist, and ones that we feel would be good watches on a desert island.
I like the idea of a shot in the dark. Like, cargo plane crashed. You get to pull one out of the bin. This is a cargo plane full of, once again, the DVD bin that's in like Walmart where everything's $5. And you have to pick a show based on the cover and title and something maybe you vaguely heard about it years ago. So I'm excited for that category. You kind of entered into the conversation with like what you were considering. I was with you in terms of I took into consideration of season length. I was like rewatchability. There's certain shows that are like very important to twists, and once you have the twist, it's like, do I really want to rewatch that? I will say, I think the big thing for me, where there are a lot of prestige shows that only did like 1 or 2 seasons, and that's because their creators only wanted to do that, and that's all they needed. And so I was hamstrung by some of those and very much torn. And then obviously the rewatchability, the quality, those sort of things all came into account. Did you, Tom, take into account the setting in which you were watching these shows? You're on a desert island. Did you think, like Lost was too close to home, or like Temptation Island? You were like, oh, I'm not going to choose Temptation Island because there's not enough hotties on this island other than you, obviously. And then was Survivor too much? Did you take the setting into account where you were like, oh, all my shows are going to be like lush rainforest shows as opposed to the lack of annual rainfall desert island shows? Did you take that into account?
That's what we talked about, right? We have to choose shows that are island-based. Wasn't that the whole thing we discussed?
Oh, no. Okay. This is why we should have...
Wait, are you serious?
We should have put rules down.
Seriously? You didn't choose island shows?
We'll get into it. We'll see where this all goes.
All right.
The last thing I'm going to mention is, Tom, you have always been a big proponent. You've said many times on this show, like some of your favorite actors are, say, like Louis C.K. and Cosby. So when you took the shows into account, are you pretending this island doesn't know about the controversy surrounding those people? And actually now I'm realizing you might not have known about the controversy surrounding those people, so I may have just ruined a couple of your choices. But are you able to justify loving those two gentlemen in real life with your desert island?
Well, I feel like if you're on a desert or deserted island, it's just you, right? So there's no way to be canceled. So if you want to go that route, go that route. I don't think I did with my picks. Based on you bringing that up, I think you did. So I'm again very excited.
Maritime law, baby. There's no laws on the ocean. International waters. This island, no rules, just right. This is. Okay. I don't know, is that Chili's slogan? I don't know what that slogan is. Anyways, let's get into it, Tom. Let's start with our comedy choice. And as the guest here today, I would like to open the floor to you to speak to your comedy choice or choices.
There's only one comedy in the island sphere that you got to go with, and that's Gilligan's Island. So my first pick for comedy is Gilligan's Island. Fantastic. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that.
Oh, no. I had a moment where I thought you actually, oh no. Oh, thank goodness we don't communicate well in real life or via podcast. Oh, Gilligan's Island would. How many seasons? Gilligan's Island, I feel like, went on for a long time,
went
and I've
for a while.
seen more Gilligan's Island than I. I mean, you've got Ginger, you've got Marianne. You're not going to be alone on that island in your
No.
head. That's
No.
something to take into consideration.
Learn how to make like coconut phones or walkie-talkies. I don't know what they did on that show. I feel like that was a show. I'm going on a tangent. That was one of those shows I would watch maybe like before I went to school every morning. That was just played on repeat over and over and over again.
Yep.
But I'm gonna transition and go to my actual answer, which is another show I watched in my youth over and over and over again. But wasn't when I woke up. This is when I was going to bed every single night. Middle school, high school was Seinfeld. I feel like Seinfeld is one of those shows. It's got the dry, dumb sense of humor, a show about nothing. Came out in 1989, had 9 seasons. It kind of went through a lot of the 90s, which I feel like I'm very nostalgic about. It's very easy to watch. I think you can pick up and go. And it is a very mundane, simple show that I think would be a fun desert island comedy.
Sure. No, I like the pick. It was certainly in consideration for me. What's funny, Tom, and I don't mean to brag, but I recently went on a vacation to an island. I turned on the hotel television, which had channels that you could click through. And what did I land on? But Seinfeld. And did I watch more of Seinfeld than I should have when I could have left the hotel and just gone to the beach? Yes. Did I have someone in my life that was like, are we going to watch Seinfeld or are we going to go see that waterfall that I told you about that TripAdvisor said some people thought were cool? The
problem with Seinfeld is there's never one episode of Seinfeld on. There's at least 19. So when you sit down and watch one, it's like the binging Netflix before Netflix became available.
It's pretty timeless in terms of you can watch it. Once again, it ended, I don't know, roughly 20 years ago, and I can still turn it on. So I like your pick. We had talked about us not being able to choose. On these islands, there's only one copy of each show.
Yeah.
And so us not being able to both take the same one. And
I'm assuming there's like a mini island between our two slightly bigger islands.
With
and we
the
both
bin.
have like canoes.
Yes.
We
With
both
the
have
bin.
canoes. We go back and forth picking from said bin.
Yes, and it's like a library, but there's no due date. So you can check out Seinfeld, and then I paddle over to the island, and I'm like, hey, has Seinfeld been checked in? And I'm assuming a parrot or a monkey, I don't know.
Is there a clerk there?
Is like, no, he's still got it. And I'm like, it's been 15 years. And then I paddle back to my island. So you choosing Seinfeld, which I think is a great choice, actually makes my choice easier. But before we go to mine, Tom, were there any runners-up? Were there any other shows that, like, was Seinfeld streets ahead in terms of what you were going to choose, or were there some close calls before you went with Seinfeld?
I mean, we talked about at the beginning. I think the easy answer would be kind of The Office because it is kind of like a comedy that we grew up in. I would argue I would rather have Parks and Rec over The Office. I felt like Parks and Rec was a show that took The Office format and just rolled with it. It took them a little bit of time, maybe after the first season, to really kind of dial in the characters. But that would be a show I would probably want on a desert island more than Seinfeld. And I think you have to throw Arrested Development in there as like an honorable mention because it's a show that we both absolutely adore. You turned me on to it, I think. But the problem with that on a desert island is it's too short. There's technically 5 seasons, but there's really only 3 seasons of that show. And I think you could get bored with it.
Right. I don't know how I isolate the audio and then take out the one word where you said you turned me on to it. Because there's some gold there, Jerry, some gold. In good faith, I think we both are going to let The Office fall out. When I think about The Office, which, as you mentioned, a show I love, I think of season 2, 3, and 4. And outside of those seasons, I'm kind of iffy on. But 2, 3, and 4, some of the best television. The nice thing about The Office is you get 400 episodes a season.
It's 23 or something, yeah.
Which was something to take into consideration. But Seinfeld's the same way. It's 9 seasons. There's a lot of episodes per season. I thought about Arrested Development, and I thought to myself, what's funny is I quote Arrested Development more than any show in the world. I couldn't tell you the last time I turned Arrested Development on. It's like something in my comedy bone that was growing, discovered Arrested Development, I think after it had been canceled in its 3rd season. and it stuck with me. I owned the DVDs. I rewatched those, but I don't like sit down and turn on Arrested Development. It holds a special place in my heart, but I think you just pointed out it's got 2.5 seasons out of, I mean, if you count like the recut ones, it's 6 seasons. So great show. I love it to death. I will always love it. I will always quote it.
All right, but hit me. What are we choosing?
Okay. This one isn't going to make any sense to you because you tried the show and quickly gave up on it. You died of cardiac arrest. And that's because I'm choosing Scrubs, which went for 9 seasons. 8 of them were good. The 9th season, they brought in a Franco and a bunch of other people that are funny, but I never gave them any. Here's what I like about Scrubs. I consider it a comedy, but there is a lot in Scrubs that is drama, that is... it's a Bill Lawrence vehicle, and so the music in itself is like... If I had Scrubs, the DVD set, even if I wasn't watching it, there is enough music that like hits my early 2000s music bone. I'm saying bone a lot tonight, which is fine. Wait until we get to our adult category of
After Hours.
the After Hours category. Oh no, that's part of the podcast that isn't for children, just for those of you that are listening. But I'm going with Scrubs. Introduction to like Zach Braff, Donald Faison, Dr. Cox. There's a lot of heart in it. There's certain episodes that like are just a punch to the gut and very heartfelt. And so I thought to myself, like, do I want a pure comedy? Sure, but a lot of pure comedies do these other things well. The drama, the romance, make you think. And so Scrubs is... I would never say Scrubs is like my favorite show of all time. But in terms of a show that I could watch over and over again, I would dive into that. I don't remember what it was called, but Tom, when we were in college, my roommate introduced me to some internet feed where you couldn't control what you watched, but it was just a constant feed of a show going when you went to the website. And one of them was Scrubs. And I could just put that on my computer. I had no control of pausing, fast forwarding, stopping, but it just had like all of Scrubs on a loop. And I loved it, and it was great. And I'm sure I own some Scrubs DVDs in this house right now. So my choice was Scrubs.
Yeah, I like it. I'm with you. I watched maybe 3 seasons of it. I feel like I got the show. I got the humor. It was just one of those that I think we'd finished the season, and my wife and I moved on to something else. So it's probably something we might go back into because I'm with you. I like the drama of it. Obviously, your work, they're doctors in a hospital that are having to deal with a lot. So not just wiping that off as like nothing, but actually, presenting that as a drama, I thought was pretty good. So I like it. I like your pick.
Some other ones that I considered, thank you for asking. Modern Family went for 11 seasons. I remember watching several seasons of Modern Family and really liking it, and then not liking it. So
yes,
the other one was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and then I thought, if I'm stuck on a desert island, do I want to watch 5 people scream at each other for 30 minutes at a time for, I don't know, what seems like, I'm going to go 16 seasons. I don't know how long they've gone for. 30 Rock came into mind, but when I thought about it, I think 30 Rock had like 2 or 3 core seasons that I enjoyed. And then, I mean, I'll watch anything with Alec Baldwin. He's my second favorite Baldwin brother, right behind Billy. But the last one, Tom, have you ever watched Happy Endings?
No, what's that one? I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Happy Endings is like a modern Friends, which I do want to point out. I love you for not bringing up Friends in this category. If you have Friends in a different category, I'm going to be super, super sad. Never been a big Friends fan. I'm sorry for Friends catching strays as I'm talking right now. But Happy Endings, give it a go. I don't know how to explain it other than it is a set of like 6 friends in Chicago. It's very witty. It's very quick. It went for 3 seasons, and it has some very funny people. a lot of people on it were friends with like June, Diane Raphael, and that crew from How Did This Get Made? So it's a very funny show if you haven't given it a go. But ultimately, it was only 3 seasons, so I couldn't do it. So my choice, Scrubs. 8 seasons and 9 as an extra that I haven't seen.
The bonus season. I do think we should give an honorable mention to what's the show that started out our podcast, and Ted Lasso. Fantastic show, but I still think it's like new. It's not kind of in the zeitgeist, and again, only 3 seasons. So I didn't consider that one.
Tom, it's funny. I have a note on my outline, which is normally our podcast is scripted, word for word. There's absolutely no ad lib. I have in my outline, which you can't see because we tried to keep this stuff secret from each other, that Lasso is on there because it's a Bill Lawrence vehicle, and I love Bill Lawrence, but you're really only getting, unfortunately, 1 great season and then 2 okay seasons. So that will be evident if you're listening to us. Go listen to our Ted Lasso seasons. Love the show. Once again, means a lot to us. Love season 1, season 2, and 3. We're okay. That leads us into the drama of it all, Tom. And you went first on comedy, so if you would allow me, I will go forth with drama.
Please.
And the things I took into consideration here were longevity, like season length, what do I enjoy rewatching, and once again, not hinging on like one big twist or something like that, because that'll get old. And so my top choice, Tom's not going to be a surprise to you, but I'm going with USA's network, Burn Notice. Let me talk to you about Burn Notice, Tom. 7 seasons, and you know this. It starred Jeff Donovan, Gabrielle Anwar, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
USA Network's motto, let's say it together, characters
There's
welcome.
no day like today. Oh.
Everyone knows his classic 1973 Dodge Charger. Little trivia, Tom, I like to share with everyone that I meet. The scar under his eye was actually his scar written into the show. I've never seen an episode of Burn Notice. Harris loves Burn Notice. I've never seen...
You're doing all of this and you've never seen one?
Never seen an episode of Burn Notice. No, I'm not going with Burn Notice. Here, Tom, I gotta be honest. I had such a tough time with the drama of it all. I just rewatched Band of Brothers, and Band of Brothers is probably the best 10 episodes of television. Man, I hope it's 10 episodes. Maybe it's 8. I think it's 10. Band of Brothers is the best 10 episodes of any show possible, but I don't know that I can commit to a show that's only 10 episodes. And I ran into the same thing with like True Detective, Deadwood, all like great HBO prestige shows, but just not enough seasons. And so I came into a conundrum, and I'm going to tell you what my top 3 are before I ended on my top 1.
This is a classic us, right? We play a game like this where you're supposed to choose a show. We spent about half an hour talking about like 13 different comedies.
Listen. Burn Notice was a joke. All right. No disrespect to Burn Notice. I'm sure it's a great show. From what I understand, Jeff Donovan is like a federal forestry
I don't think we need to
agent,
go through the Burn Notice.
Every time they do a controlled burn in the forest, he has to give everyone notice. So his job is to go door to door being like, hey, we're going to burn some trees. And then Bruce Campbell is like the cleanup guy, and he's got a broom, and he's like, this is my broomstick, and he does all these cool things. Anyways, so that's Burn Notice.
Army of Darkness reference? This is my boomstick?
That was yes. Anyways.
Incredibly impressive.
Thank you.
Greatest B-movie actor of all time.
Once again, this is all scripted. Here's where I ended up, and I feel like we're gonna hit end recording.
Hold on, before you go further, you can't just keep throwing all these out because you might be throwing in mine. So pick your one, say your one, let me give my one, and then we can go back and forth. Because I don't want you to go through all my talking points when you pick the next 3 popular shows.
Did I ruin Burn Notice for you? I feel bad that I ruined Burn Notice for you. No. I'm sorry.
I did have Band of Brothers as an honorable mention, but for the same reasons as you had. It's one of those shows I watch probably every year, if not every other year, because it's just so fantastic. But I don't think I could choose that as a Desert Island movie.
Okay.
Or show.
Here's what I'm going to... Here's what I'm going to land on. And it's so tough for me, Tom, but I'm going to go with Justified. And here's why I'm going with Justified. It's Timothy Olyphant. Other than you, Tom, if there was anyone I wanted to be stuck on a desert island, sorry to my spouse, it would be Timothy Olyphant as a deputy marshal just arresting people in Kentucky. I know you tried this show. I know you couldn't get through it because you found it very formulaic. I don't remember what your term procedural. Yeah. Well, here's the deal with Justified. Maybe the first season is procedural, but then the seasons just get better and better. It's a Graham Yost show, and Graham Yost, Tom, was part of Band of Brothers, and he was also a part of a show that you and I did, a little show called Silo. And so Justified, 6 seasons. They just did a extra season, so maybe you could say it's 7 seasons. It's got Walton Goggins. Hold on.
Let me check with the parrot. Parrot, can he also rent out the 7th season? Nope, that's a no. No, sorry, you cannot get the bonus season. It's got a different title for the series.
Well, I killed that bird, so it doesn't matter. I'm taking season 7 too. Actually, I don't even care if season 7. Season 7 was okay, but I'm taking Justified. My honorable mentions before you go to yours, because I hope I steal them, were Friday Night Lights, which I know you're not taking because you hate Pete Berg. Friday Night Lights is incredible. The reason I was thinking about Friday Night Lights is because I'm going to be lonely on that island. And Lila Garrity and Tyra are great companions on a lonely island. And then the last, Tom, House. Did you give House any consideration?
I did not. I did not think of sarcoidosis. That was a good show, though. That was a good show. I loved show. Yeah.
Hugh Laurie as a Sherlock doctor. Just incredible. Anyways, those were my top 3, but I'm ending with Justified, and I have about 9 other honorable mentions, Tom, but give me yours.
Okay. I feel like my top pick here is Breaking Bad. I think Breaking Bad is one of the greatest television shows ever made in terms of taking a premise from Vince Gilligan, the writer-creator, saying, I want to show the arc of a guy Breaking Bad and becoming a villain. And I watched that recently again with my wife. Had never seen the show, and I watched it again for her first time and my second time. It was all the beats, all the storylines, the development of these characters, the Jesse Pinkman, Walter White kind of duo that they created for the show was just fantastic. And that to me is a show that I feel like I can keep watching, and just, if for nothing else, being able to appreciate it every single time I'd watch. So released back in 2008. It's got 5 seasons, so it's got a good chunk of content.
And they're long. They're long episodes too. If I recall, Breaking Bad is hour long. Yeah. So you got a lot of television there.
Bonus, I feel like if I've watched this enough, I can probably pause and figure out how to actually make meth if needed. So, bonus.
Tom, does your parole officer know that this is your choice? Because as a guy that got off the White Lightning, I don't know how I feel about this choice.
It's a Blue Lightning now, baby.
In fact, it sounds like intervention. Intervention? It sounds like another time for, which spoils my variety show game show choice. Intervention.
Another moment.
Okay, here's where I have a list on my outline, and that list has The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, and The Wire. And The Wire's maybe not a great example, but when I was thinking about the desert island, I thought about Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and Mad Men. And the heroes of those shows are all bad guys. They're not good people. And as someone who has a little bit of darkness of the soul that he has to stay away from, certainly if he's on a desert island, I feel like if I was spending too much time with The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and Mad Men, you'd find me underneath the coconut tree just waiting for the coconut that takes me off this mortal plane into some sort of other planet or island, depending on what your religious belief is. So I agree with you. Incredible show. I've watched it all the way through. One of those shows where you get done with one episode and it's 11:45 at night and you're like, we can do one more, right? I mean, I've only got a I don't know, raise children and do a job tomorrow. So I love your pick. For me, I felt like it was going to be too dark of a show to like be on a desert island with. I like the fact that if you can make the meth, you're probably a little bit happier on the island. But I also don't know if you're going to be able to get enough cough medicine from the pharmacy on said island in order to produce said methamphetamines. So I don't know, but I liked your choice. Did you have some runners up that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, my only real runner-up I think is worth talking through maybe a little bit is Game of Thrones. I think as somebody who watched the first season of Game of Thrones, was so enthralled by it. I mean, it was obviously a cultural phenomenon. It's kind of known for not landing, but that's not, I don't think, the showrunner's fault. Like, they got ahead of the books and they got bullet points of how the show could end. And unfortunately, George R. R. Martin is still, as we record this podcast, actively working on, I think, the last book or second to the last book, The Dreams of Spring.
Still alive.
Yeah. So, but that was a show that I watched the first season and immediately picked up the book and wanted to read through them. And these are not small books; like, these are big books. And we've discussed many times on this pod, I am not a big reader, but I have read through the whole series, and it's just high fantasy done right. It intersects a lot of different genres, like political, family, horror, or not horror, excuse me, like war stuff, romance, incest, everybody's favorite genre.
Whoa. 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 Whew.
But yeah, it's a show that I feel like would be probably fun to kind of go back and watch. And it's long. It's 8 seasons. So
I gave it some consideration, but I felt like it would conflict with my Desert Island book selection, because I feel like you need some variety there. So I dismissed it. But no, certainly a show I gave some consideration to. The crux of it is, Tom, I just didn't know if I wanted to think about dragons while I was alone on an island, because I don't know if I would be able to sleep.
I feel like the White Walkers are what's going to give you the nightmares.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Although Desert Island probably pretty warm, so not too scared of the White Walkers. But spoilers. We don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
But no, I like your choice. I like my choice more. I'm already regretting not going with House, because the show's such a rewatchable show. Oh, last thing I want to mention, Tom. I want to recommend, with Hugh Laurie and TV shows, prestige TV shows, for people out there, if you haven't watched The Night Manager, it has Loki. The actor's name is
Tom Hiddleston
and Hugh Laurie. It's based on a John le Carre novel. It's like a Amazon 10-episode show, maybe 8-episode show. Very well done, very good. I recently watched a lot of it on a plane. I would recommend that show. But let's move on, Tom. Let's move on to the most amorphous, confusing, mystic category that we have, which is variety show, game show, lots of other things. I'm going to ask a question at the top, Tom. Did you lump in like reality TV into this? Like any type of reality TV competition show? Or
Listen, I thought initially we were doing deserted islands. So I picked a dessert show, Great British Bake Off. And then I realized that doesn't sound right, because trying to find a drama baking show is going to be tough.
Too many S's.
Yep. So no, yeah, I when I wrote this down in my outline, I'm like, I could kind of go anything here, which is, I think, kind of the fun of it. But I focused kind of more on maybe game show-ish type show.
Okay.
Do you want me to hit you? Hit you with it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So initially I'm thinking, like, maybe I could do Alone, the show on History Channel where the people just try to survive. Because
You're alone on island watching Alone.
I could use that to help me survive if you let me finish. I feel like I would be able to survive longer on said desert island if I had it. I feel like I was like Dwight Schruting it, where I would bring a book that is like carved out, has a knife, or has whatever else. But I didn't go with that. Go with that. A show that I kind of picked up later in life. It's a show that my wife absolutely loves and adores, and I have definitely become a big fan. And because this show has 35 seasons, I could probably just watch this forever. It's The Amazing Race. It's a super fun show.
Okay.
It's fun. It's simple. It's easy. Seeing people travel around the world would be probably pretty cool on a desert island. Being able to see all these places you can no longer see in the different cultures, everything is great. It's also fun to watch like relationships just get destroyed in real time, both siblings.
Oh wow! Okay.
Marriages.
Sure.
Trying to figure out directions to places. It's a lot of fun. It's a great show. There's a new season out right now that me and my wife are watching, so that would be my recommendation. That plus, I would like to say we should probably submit an audition tape for Amazing Race. We'd be great.
Listen, as long as I don't have to be shirtless on television, that's the only thing I care about.
No, that'd be the only reason. I mean, the audition tape is going to be you shirtless. So it brings in the watches.
Oh, no. Okay, so...
but what do you got, man? What's your top?
I don't know that I've watched a single episode of The Amazing Race. I will take
give it a
your...
go. It's fun.
But you watching alone on a desert island is maybe one of the saddest things. Like watching a dessert show, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're starving on a desert island. You like want to watch food. That makes sense to me. Okay. So I had questions here. I had questions like...
For the game that you made up. Go on.
For the game I made up. Would Saturday Night Live fall under this? And I kind of threw that out in terms of... I don't know if in the spirit of this, that fell into this category.
That's a definition of a variety show.
The other one I was interested in was Top Chef, because Top Chef is a show that I have never chose to watch. I've never been like, oh, I'm going to watch Top Chef. Here's what happens. I walk out of my office from podcasting with you 6 nights a week. I walk into the bedroom and Top Chef is on, and my spouse is halfway through an episode. And I go, oh, you're watching Top Chef? And then 4 hours later, I'm like, wait, did she put that ingredient? Oh, that's not going to work. I'm so engrossed in Top Chef, and Padme's on there, and she's wonderful, and Tom's on there, and he is very nice, kind of snide, but regularly nice. And then you just get to look at food. And maybe why I like The Bear is because you get to look at food. But Tom, none of those are my answer. My answer is Jeopardy.
Julian.
Jeopardy is my answer. And honestly, I thought you were going to take Jeopardy from me because I know you love Jeopardy. I know you love playing Jeopardy at home. Maybe it's lost some luster since Alec passed, which R.I.P. Alec. We all loved you.
Alex.
Although I'm saying Alec,
Is it Alex?
and it's really Alex. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's Canadian.
Alex
Maybe
Trebek.
it's Alec. I fudged that. Anyways.
You still got Baldwin on your mind.
Here's... That's exactly right. I thought you were going to take Jeopardy, so I have Cash Cab on here, but I'm not going to go with Cash Cab. I thought, you know what? I'm going to be on an island. I love trivia. I feel like Jeopardy's a show. You start from 1... and like by the time you get to season 20, you've forgotten all the answers, so you could go back and rework it. So I'm going with Jeopardy because Jeopardy would be something you're sitting on an island, you get to engage with it, and then like Kramer, when you rewatch it, you get to say all the right answers if you remember them. So anyways, I'm going with Jeopardy. That would be my choice. I think it's been on for 20-something years. And my assumption is when you're on that island, they drop off the new seasons as they come in. A plane just flies over and a little parachute with season 27 of Jeopardy floats down and lands in the bin. That's the
I don't even know if you can that canoe ride back from getting it from the parrot little island, taking it back to your island. I don't know if we're going to make it. I feel like it would weigh down and sink your canoe. It's going to be a lot of Jeopardy DVDs.
So much knowledge. Anyways, so I'm
Good
choosing
pick. I like
Jeopardy because obviously everyone knows I'm super smart and I love to exercise my brain about smart things. So that's
okay, you
why.
do Jeopardy. I'll do Wheel of Fortune. Just phrases and letters.
I thought about Wheel of Fortune, and then I was like, I've never watched a single. Other than Sick It from school, Price is Right hit my.
I wrote that down.
Yeah, and then the other one was Win Ben Stein's Money, but that was only 6 seasons, and I felt like that was of a time that I would miss. So, yeah, I'm going with Jeopardy. Our next category, Tom, and this one was thrown in late in the game, and I think you and I are going to probably have some fighting over this one, is the cartoon category. Which, as two grown men that love a certain cartoon, I'm going to...
You go first.
Let me ask you this. If we both pick the same one, do we cancel each other out?
We did not pick the same one.
Oh, we didn't. Okay.
No.
Well, that's easy then. I'm going with Bluey. I'm stuck on an island. I get to listen to a bunch of Australian dogs, and the show's incredible. Tom and I have talked about doing a Bluey podcast, which doesn't seem that crazy, but does kind of seem that crazy because we're grown men. And it's such a great show. It's got stuff for kids. It has stuff. My only issue with Bluey is if I'm on a desert island, clearly I have no family in this moment, and I'm wondering if Bluey hits me in the same way if I don't relate to how kids watch it. Because part of the joy is literally last night, my daughter and I, she was like, hey, can we turn on Bluey? And it was just fun to watch it with her. And you get different things as a parent, but the kid also loves it. And so I'm choosing Bluey. Unfortunately, there's only 3 seasons, but that seems like a show that's going to go on for a long time. So my choice is Bluey. Tom, what was yours?
I love it, man. Bluey was definitely an honorable mention for me, but I think if you're going to be on a deserted island, there is no question your cartoon is The Simpsons.
Sure.
You got, again, another thing. Released in 1989. It's got 35 seasons. It's just timeless. It was always entertaining. I remember watching like all the brand new episodes growing up, watching the opening credits. How are they going to get on the couch? What is Bart writing on the board? I mean, they literally have an entire town worth of characters. It's just a fantastic show. It's also one of those shows that managed to like still be topical, but not like edgy to a point. Like it always included a huge audience, which I think is why it's so kind of revered to this day and still going strong. It's an amazing show, and it's got to be your pick. It's got at least my pick.
It was on my list, but here's the deal. Growing up the way that I grew up, they were constantly like, Bart Simpson, is he ruining society?
That's right.
And I go back and watch like old Simpsons, and like other than saying cowabunga or I don't know, and calling his dad Homer, I don't know that Bart was really that bad of a kid.
No, it really isn't.
And considering South Park was on my list of maybes, I don't know that Bart Simpson's really been the issue in my life. So I respect your pick just from a season. I will say, like, I've gone back and watched some Simpsons, and the ones that hit. And then there are some that I've watched and I've just been like, I don't know. I haven't loved. The humor is certainly there for me because there are some, I don't know, just off the rails humor that they do that I really enjoy. But so I agree with your pick. It's number 2 on my list other than Bluey. The other ones I thought about were Archer, which Archer is a lot of fun, and then South Park. But South Park also is kind of the same way in terms of there were seasons that I thought were like they were hitting on all cylinders, and then there are some where I, didn't want anything to do with them. So
yeah, that was a hit or miss show for me too.
Yeah, but I appreciate it. All right, here we go, Tom. Here's the category I've never seen before, and we have to choose. And so I'll give you the option. Would you like to go first or second?
I'll go first. I feel like the way that you are rubbing your hands together is you have some silly, ridiculous pick. I feel like mine is more, hey, Tom, how the heck have you not seen this series? And I don't know why I haven't.
Okay, interesting.
So my pick is The Sopranos. I have never seen The Sopranos. Seemingly, when doing research for this podcast, every top 10 list or top 100 list always has Sopranos in, if not number 1, the top 2 or 3.
Yep.
It's a show that I just didn't. I don't think I had HBO at the time when it originally came out. I didn't follow back up with it later on in life. And I think at one point I did try to watch it. And I was sharing somebody's HBO account at the time. And they had watched all of the episodes of the first season except number 10. So when I hit play and tried to start watching the show, I started with the finale of season 1. I got about 45 minutes into it and I was like, what's going on? So I think that maybe spoiled it for me for a little bit. Not necessarily the show, because I know it's a long running show, and I know there's a lot of stuff about how the show ended and everything. But it's got to be one I would assume is going to be an enjoyable one on an island. But to your point, it's a bunch of bad guys. It's probably not a heartwarming story that may drive you a little insane on an island.
Sure. I would be interested to hear your take on The Sopranos in terms of it's a great show, and to be perfectly honest, I don't know what season I ended on. I know I have not seen it from
you haven't.
season 1 to end. I think, and this is a conversation my wife, she gets super mad at me, is at certain points I'm just out on a show. Like we will be in season 3 and I'm just out. And to be honest, a lot of times what it comes down to is, once again, if a show gets super dark, or like I get to the point where I don't feel like the main characters are redeemable, or it's like, why am I enjoying watching a criminal do these things? I can get like in my head and be like, I don't want to watch this. Like, give me Bluey, you know?
Yeah, that was 100% me with that show Succession. I've heard that was really good and had like really good arcs. I watched that whole first season, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but just the way that first season ends, just every character is just awful, and I'm not rooting for anybody. I couldn't do it. It was just too depressing.
Sure. And maybe that's us. I don't know. Maybe that is like just taking an entertainment value and a show that's well done. I can understand. But at some point, I popped smoke on The Sopranos and I was out. I'm not going to say I'm never going to go back to it. It's obviously a show, as you mentioned, every like TV show rating, it's up there in the top 10. And so it was on my radar for drama, but I knew I wasn't going to pick it just because I haven't watched the whole thing. And so for me, what I went with as a never seen before is, since Scrubs was my comedy, I went with ER as my never seen before.
Oh boy.
I can't say I've ever seen a single episode of ER. I know one George Eugene Clooney is the main star. Casamigos Clooney. Sure, that's his middle name. It went for 15 seasons. Honestly, I've made a huge error, Tom. I should have gone Scrubs and comedy, House and drama, and then ER and never seen before.
You love your medical shows, huh?
It would just be me in the medical, and then my like variety show should have been Can You Perform the Surgery, that classic variety show where they bring in non-doctors to do appendectomies.
I like the idea of us being on our desert island, and then 20 years they go to my island, and I'm just methed out of my mind on whatever blue crystal that I've been creating. Meanwhile, you're like healing animals and sewing them up, and
I'm a doctor.
Yeah, a doctorate, honorary doctorate.
You come over, you show me your foot. You're like, I don't know what it's doing. I'm like, it's not sarcoidosis. I know that much. Go back to your island. Also, check back into whatever.
Check
show.
back Seinfeld.
Give me Seinfeld, you jerk. No, so I'm going with ER. My runners up for this were Doctor Who, which I've never watched an episode of, and I think it's got like 26 seasons, but it may be too British for me. Tom, have you ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm? Seeing as how Seinfeld was your pick for comedy, did you give Curb Your Enthusiasm any consideration for any of these categories?
Not for these shows. It was a show that I had watched like a handful of them, and to me it was just too dry. Like, it was, instead of being about Seinfeld, it was about George Costanza, because that's obviously who Larry David kind of based his character on in Seinfeld. So I mean, it had humor and there were funny bits, but it was not a show I would consider.
Okay. And then the other one was X-Files, but then I was like, I'm alone on an island. Do I really want to watch X-Files where I can be beamed up at any time and probed? And then
Truth is out there, man.
Well, if I'm lonely, maybe being... Anyways. All right. Here's the last question. Okay, so let's run through our choices very quickly. I'm going to hit mine. I went with Scrubs and comedy. I went with Justified and drama. I went with Jeopardy and Variety. I went with Bluey with Cartoon, which is unassailable. Bluey's incredible. And then I went with ER in a show that I've never seen before, but feel like I could dive into and really enjoy. Tom, what were yours?
I feel like I didn't get a chance. Like ER, I think we were watching like Last Week Tonight recently from John Oliver, and he showed a clip from ER about how the show like completely went off the rails after, I don't know, season 9, where like George Clooney was doing like medical stuff. And at a certain point, there was just like helicopter crashes and dudes like getting their arms chopped off. It got pretty brutal from what I saw. So enjoy that ER experience.
You can hear me just sobbing from the other island. You're like, he's on season 9 of ER, that poor sap.
But okay, so yeah, my island, we've got Seinfeld for my comedy. We got Breaking Bad for my drama. We have Amazing Race for my variety or game show. And Simpsons for cartoon. And then Sopranos holding it down for my never seen. So I'm pretty proud of my island.
No, you've got a great island. You've got a great island. Here's a bonus question I would like to pose to you, Tom. I gave you no prep for this, and so I'm going to vamp a little while I give it to you.
Yes, and?
As you were looking at these shows, obviously like networks that they were on, different things came into play. I started to think to myself, well, rather than picking a series, if I could choose like a network or a channel and get all of the shows that were on that channel, what would I choose? And so my question to you would be, if you could take like the library of any channel or, whatever it is, which one would you choose?
Well, first off, I would, if I can I burn one first? And just about every show on Fox, like Masked Singer and all the ridiculous shows that they have.
My choice would be Fox, the network show. No, yes, you can.
That's
burn
a network
one.
known for their silly. I mean, I guess Masked Singer's not terrible, but they're known for just having
Was
garbage.
House on Fox?
Reality
House
shows.
might have been on Fox.
House was
Tom.
a Fox show, I think.
I'm
so.
not going to allow you to take House from me. No.
But give me what you have. One certainly comes to mind immediately, but what's yours?
So here's what I chose. I chose FX, and here's why I chose FX. And I didn't really, as I was going through these shows, I was like, oh, I like more FX shows than I thought I did. And FX kind of landed in the zone of it wasn't like a network show where they had to keep everything pretty like tame just from a like ratings, but it wasn't HBO where they could go full blown, male nudity like Game of Thrones, which we're all a huge fan of, obviously. But FX had like obviously Justified, It's Always Sunny, The Bear, Fargo, The Americans, which I don't know if you've watched The Americans, Tom, but that's a really good show. Rescue Me, which I don't know where people land on Dennis Leary, but it was a very entertaining show. So I ended up with like, hey, if I could take a show's just preliminary, I think I would do FX based on a bunch of the shows I appreciate because they kind of land in that middle area of not an HBO, not a network, but they play between the lines. So I chose FX.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, my mind immediately went to HBO just based off of their known, Sunday premiere dramas and shows that they would have, where like they just became a thing. Like if you're not sitting at home on a Sunday night watching HBO, like you're doing it wrong. And there's obviously plenty of evidence if you go and look at their series catalogs. I feel like the other one that kind of comes to mind are channels that I would always seemingly fall back on when I'm watching TV would have been Comedy Central. Just because I always like a good comedy, something to kind of have in the background. And there's obviously a plethora of shows on there that were kind of influential for me kind of growing up. So that would be probably the other one I would say I would fall on.
Sure. Well, Tom, we're stuck on our desert island. The last thing I would like to ask you, Tom, is your island is over there. My island is over here.
Wait, over where?
Over here.
Oh, there. Okay, sorry. I couldn't see you pointing.
Sure. If we had to meet on the center island in order to watch one series together, let's say every Thursday, even though we don't have calendars, You're using like a Gregorian calendar. I'm using Julius Caesar's calendar, which Julius Caesar stands for Julian because it's my island and I've created my calendar. What day, we'll say Julian Day, we're going to meet together in order to watch a show. What show do you feel like the two of us would like be able to, without cannibalizing the other person, meet in a cordial fashion and watch every episode of, and then go back to our separate islands to live our lives? Is there a show?
That's an easy answer.
Okay.
It's Cheers. The Sam and Diane relationship we've always had. We do enjoy ourselves a nice cocktail every once in a while. Going hanging out at a bar, getting together on Little Middle Island. Definitely Cheers.
How many episodes of Cheers have you watched in your life?
None. Absolutely none.
Okay.
But everybody
Cheers.
knows their names.
Everyone knows their names. Everyone loves Cheers. I feel like, Tom, I picture the two of us sitting in lawn chairs, the projectors on a coconut tree. Like we finish an episode, the credits are playing, and you're like, hey, that was pretty good. And I'm like, what? Oh, it's over? Did you want to watch another one? And you're like, no, we'll pick this back up next Julian Day. And
What's
it's
your
like,
name
okay.
again?
And then, all right, man. And then we just paddle away. I don't know. I like that you picked Cheers. I'm assuming I'm Diane in this situation. But yeah.
What do you got?
No.
What's yours? What's our buddy movie? Is it a buddy cop? Is it Chips? Are we Chips?
No. It's Miami Vice.
Oh.
No, not at all. First off, it's Jeopardy. You and I are sitting down to watch Jeopardy. We're going to keep score on the coconut. We're going to shout at each other. And then we're going to go about our way and then slowly build animosity until one island invades the other. So that would be my choice. But here is our ask of the audience at this point. If you're still with us and you've gone through these categories with us, I'm sure you disagree. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your desert island, comedy TV show, drama, some sort of variety game show or reality TV show, whatever that falls under, your cartoon and you're never seen. Send it to Tom and I. We want to hear from you. And then Tom, I would venture to say the one we like the most, we will send a t-shirt to. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So,
although the people that are doing this probably already have t-shirts we've sent them.
Disqualified. If you already have a t-shirt, just tell us the different color, because obviously you're going to want a church Team Binge shirt and then a work Team Binge shirt. We'll send the other. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Tom, what are the other ones?
Yeah, reach us at Twitter and Instagram at Team Binge or Team Binge Podcast. And yeah, send over your thoughts. Let us know hashtag Tom Island or hashtag Julian Island. Who's you'd rather be on? I'd be interested to know that. But yeah, that was fun. A fun conversation. Fun to kind of talk through some of those, and we'll figure out a show to do here soon once we can. I mean, again, I think the writer's strike kind of slowed down new shows coming out, but I know there's some stuff coming out. Like new True Detective might be kind of good. Jodie Foster, I think, is in that. So there's other stuff that I think could be the next Team Binge pods.
Sure. If you have any thoughts on shows that you've watched recently that are kind of going below the radar that you really enjoyed, let us know. We'd love to hear from people. And at this point, Tom, I have been Julian's Island.
And I have been Tom's Island. Bye, everybody.